everyone. Welcome to Picture Book Chat. I'm Mary Ellen Braggs. I'm the Public Services Manager for Early Learning here at the Spokane County Library District. And I work with ages birth to 8 years old, and I'm in charge of all the programming. And with me today is Sheri Boggs. Hi, Sheri.
Hi, Mel. I am the Youth Collection Development Librarian for the district, and my job is to buy all the picture books, definitely, but I also buy for middle grade and YA, basically everything from 0 up to 18. But my one true love of my job is buying the picture books, and picture book chat is a thing that we started as a way to kind of share with all of you the conversations that we have in the office about picture books, what I look for as a buyer, what Mary Ellen looks for as an early learning care provider or literacy provider. And it's kind of interesting. Sometimes those two things mesh, and sometimes we see completely different things in the same book. It can be really fun. So that's how picture book chat works. Mary Ellen, are you ready for your first book?
I am. I am.
I'm really excited about this one. This one is, get the glare off it, Doing Business by Shawn Harris. So a quick moment to talk about books about doing number 2. It's a thing in children's publishing, and sometimes they're very well done. Like I feel like Everyone Poops by Taro Gomi is a classic. It's been around, yeah, and it's been around since the 80s. I just like the straightforwardness of it. But there are other ones, like you'll see books that, like I have to admit, Walter the Farting Dog, I hate that book. I shouldn't say that because a lot of people love it. A lot of people, families find it really funny, but I don't know, like there's not much to the story besides the fact that the dog has this farting problem. I don't know what my pet peeve about it is, but you can find those books in the picture book section, and sometimes it just kind of seems like a one-note gag, and other times they're really clever. And I feel like this one falls into the clever camp. Of course, because you've got the play on words, doing business. And I don't know how many preschoolers have an understanding of the word business in the work sense. It could be interesting if this is their first introduction to the word business. It could be confusing later on. But I love this. Like it's got really kind of minimal, I don't know if that's the word, but they're uncomplicated, unfussy illustrations. I love right away on the title page, you get an introduction to one of the characters. It's like, oh, where's that dog going? What do you think he's going to do? So yeah, you see him go under the desk. I think any pet owner knows where this is going. And I love this. I love this frame where you see that, and then you see the person's shoes, and it's like, uh-oh. Whose business is this? So right away you get the question, and you get kind of the giggly play on words with business. And as it goes through the story, it's kind of a deductive reasoning exercise for the narrator as he looks at the various creatures in the house and determines, is this your business? Like the baby does business in a diaper. This is not baby business. I love the big close-up on the behind. I think preschoolers are going to find that really funny. Daddy does business in the bathroom. This is not daddy business. So again, I think kids are going to find this really funny. I think adults will find it really funny. Who did this? This is no place for business. So it goes on and on. It talks about how, could it be bird business? No, bird business looks like this. Is it ladybug business? No, ladybug business is very small. So it could be fun for preschoolers as you're going through it to kind of guess, like, well, what kind of business do you think that animal makes? So it's just very playful. I think that this spread in particular, adults are going to like bears do business in the woods, cats do business in a box. So great fun. How would you use this, Mary Ellen?
Yeah, I really like this. I think it's more for families to use. I think depending on your group, if you really know your group in story time, I think you could use it and have some fun with it. But for the most part, I think it's really one for families to use, especially if you're going through the potty training. What I do love, because people always come in and ask us for potty training books, right?
Yeah.
And I do love that in the middle of this book, they talk about going potty in the potty too.
Yes.
And did you do this business? And you did this business? This is good business. I just had to laugh at this one because we use that word with our kids. I mean, we oftentimes it was potty, but we say that to the dog, go out and do your business. I mean, so I think it has a lot of fun thing. I think it's great for the potty training set. They'll get a really big kick out of it. I think that I love the illustrations. It's big and bright. And like you often say, there's a lot of white space on the pages too. So, you know, the words stand out, the pictures stand out. So, and I mean, you know, everybody loves to talk about poop. I mean,
it's preschooler gold. Like, you know, like
yeah.
if you're doing that in a story, well, I don't know if it's appropriate for our story times, but I think, you know, as a caring adult reading to small children, I think, yeah, that's, you've got them.
Well, what was the book? The Little Mole Who Done It? You know, he's going around asking who done it, who done it. And so, I mean, there is, people do appreciate that. And one of the things you brought out is, you know, not everything is for every family. Not every book is for every family, which is why we really recommend that you read through the books completely and before you share them with your child, and so that you know what's going to happen. And so I think this is a good one. Yeah, read through it. It may or may not strike your fancy. And but I thought it was a really cute one, talked about it well. I love the doing business, calling it business. So I thought it was humorous, and I tend to like funny books.
Yeah, I do
Some people
too.
might want something more serious, but this might be something, because toddlers often, once they start potty training, have a lot of questions about how other people go to the bathroom or where do animals go to the bathroom. So this would answer a lot of those questions too. So
yeah.
yeah.
And I thought of a couple other things I wanted to add. Like from an art perspective, I just love how the artist uses space on the cover of the book. There were a couple instances in there where I was just like, that was a really interesting artistic decision to do whatever that way. And then back to potty training, I just wanted to give a shout out to our toddler out of diapers bags.
Yes.
That we have. Like families can check these out. It's a bag with 6 books about potty training aimed at that age group, and we have one for boys, one for girls, so those are available for people to check out, and there's some great books in there to help with that particular journey that you might be on.
And it is a journey.
It is.
Very rarely does it happen overnight, right?
No.
So yeah. So for all the parents out there that are going through potty training, yeah.
We see you.
Yes. I've been through that 3 times.
So my next book is I Love My Fur.
Yeah.
I love this cover. This figure is just so engaging. This book speaks to me because I'm very vain about my hair. Like I had short hair the entire time I was growing up. It wasn't until maybe 5 years ago that I was able to grow my hair long. And so like this character's like delight in preening and grooming, I can really relate to. It's just like, oh my gosh, I can braid my hair, I can do this, I can do that. But the book starts with, hey, Bigfoot, your fur looks beautiful today. I love this, really? And they're talking about, like, yeah, what? Mine? No way. Yes, way. It's so thick and shiny. The most beautiful ever. So I love how they're describing it and making Bigfoot feel good about his natural attribute there. And I'm just saying it's not really clear what gender we're talking about here, but could be boy or girl. But I just love this. I love my fur. It's so fluffy. It's so soft. But it gets to the point where Bigfoot is so in love with his fur that he kind of doesn't see anything else, and he thinks that his friends feel just the same way about it because they said that one nice thing to him that one day. So here he's like, it's all anyone wants to talk about. And one poor character is like, have you seen my new book? And he just keeps going on about his fur. And he does some other obnoxious things, like he offers unsolicited advice about, like shampoos you could try, maybe brushing your hair every day. I love this page. If you condition it, your hair will be as soft as mine. And this character's going, I don't have hair. And this one is going, my hair is snakes. So it's really playful. By the end of the book, he's realized that being too much in love with your hair and never cutting it is problematic. There's literally no room in the classroom for everybody else. They do what good friends do when you haven't been very cool, and they just find somewhere else to go play and other things to do. And so Bigfoot is kind of left alone with just all the things that are caught in his glorious hair. And so he learns a lesson about, like noticing other people and what's important to them, not constantly talking about yourself and making yourself, like not putting yourself in the middle of everything. I'm not saying that right, but I love, like, gets his hair cut, he comes back to school and they're like, Bigfoot, your fur, your beautiful fur. And this is kind of a test. He goes, enough about my beautiful fur, and then asks how his friends are doing. So I think this is a really playful way to talk about consideration, and that you can go too far with being concerned about your looks. Mary Ellen, what did you think of this one? Oh, I think you're muted, Mary Ellen.
I am.
Okay.
I really liked how they dealt with the whole topic. I think that it's a great book to use with kids when you're talking about feelings and listening to others. And so, yeah, you could tell he had kind of a deaf ear to what his friends were feeling. And so I think it kind of, in the end, shows how to be a good friend, to take the compliment and then, ask them how they're doing. I did in this, I love the end papers where it shows like all the pictures of this little creature here.
Oh, all the different hairdos. I don't think I even
Yes.
noticed that. That's really fun.
Yeah, yeah. It shows the comb and the brush and everything. I love when he or she starts talking about how they can take care of their own hair, using all his tricks. And that he's so focused that he thinks everyone thinks his hair is great there.
Yeah.
And I love that one spread where they're in the classroom and his hair is everywhere, and it's even going up their instruments and everything. I mean, I just thought that was really, really, kind of, it definitely, in the look on people's faces is his classmates' faces are just a riot. So yeah, it was this one.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yes. So, and then, the other interesting thing is that I noticed that they did show one of the creatures in a wheelchair too. So I thought that was good that we could see, some, different kiddos, creatures, animal creatures in there. And I like the ending a lot because it ends with, I also love what my friends like to do. So I thought that was a great way to end the book. And they're all sitting around reading a book too on this last page.
Always a plus.
Yeah. So, yeah, but in terms of to talk about feelings, because sometimes, a child may not realize that, they're always talking about themselves, but they haven't, bothered to engage their friends in asking how they are and what's going on there. So I could see a lot of uses for this, either at home or in a child care center or a school setting. I think that one might be a good one to use.
What ages do you think this works for?
I think definitely 4 and up.
Okay. Yeah.
Because they're gonna, it might go over some of the 3-year-olds' heads, but it's a great one to ask, well, how do you think they're feeling in the
Mhm.
book too, when you see the friends' faces, expressions on their faces. So how do you think they're feeling? And you can start a discussion that way with the kids about listening to others and other people's feelings.
Mhm.
Yeah. But yeah, but I mean, once again, really bright colors in the book and
Mhm.
um, really engaging a lot for the kids to look at too.
Mhm.
So yeah, just a
It
nice little book.
feels like the other one. I feel like it's something that would be easy to see from across a room.
Yes.
It's not overly detailed,
Right.
like the
Yeah.
one I'm going to talk about in a minute.
Yes. But
Well,
yeah,
there's my segue.
yeah, there's your segue. You got it. You go, girl.
All right. So this is The Midnight Fair by Gideon Sterer. And this reminds me of, kind of the heyday of wordless picture books in the
Mhm.
90s. We have things like Good Dog Carl, and especially the stuff that David Wiesner did. I don't know if I'm saying
Yes.
his name right, but Tuesday, definitely, which
Yes.
won the Caldecott Medal.
Mhm.
Can't remember the year. And then there was also, there were a couple other ones that he did. Flotsam was another
Mhm.
gorgeous one. This
Yeah.
reminds me of that. It's a little bit smaller scale. The cover, I don't know if you can see this twinkling, but it's almost like constellations in the background. There's a little bit of
Little
a foil effect.
sparkles.
I
Yeah.
know. So right away, I think this is super engaging. I love the night sky with the lit up carousel against it. And this narrative is basically what happens when the fair closes for the night. And the people have all gone home, but the animals
I
want to see
love the
what's
way
going
the
on.
eyes stand out in that.
Yeah,
The artist did a great job there.
it's really beautiful. And so I love, you see they're helping themselves get in. The raccoons are switching up the electricity so that everything can be powered and they can go for rides. So you see them just going about the fair just like people do. So looking at the rides, they're getting cotton candy and popcorn. They're winning stuff at
Yeah.
the little arcade that goes up and down. Um, I love the quality of light and all the color in
Mhm.
these illustrations. Like it just kind of captures that glow and excitement of being at the fair at night.
Yeah.
I think for kids, that's kind of it's an exciting time. It's like up to a certain age, you usually go during the day, but then, like as you get older, your family might take you at night, or you might go with your friends or whatever. Maybe back in a safer time in the 70s. I don't know if people still let their kids go to the fair with their friends at night. But I love these center spreads. Like there's just the suggestion of motion in these. Like
Mhm.
you can just feel that boat ride is going to swing back. And I love how the illustrator has drawn all the animals like rearing back from the momentum of the ride. On the next page, you see them all on the carousel. Like it's just gorgeous. And I love at the end of the book, they have their fun at the fair all night. They ride the roller coaster, they do all this stuff. You see the guard, like it's the sky's getting lighter. You see the guard getting ready for
Yes.
work in the morning. And you see the animals packing up and going. The guard gets to work. And then I love this. He looks at the admission booth and the animals have all
Mhm.
left some kind of currency in the ticket booth. So there's like a snail shell, there's
Oh
seed
yeah.
pods, there's berries. So I love that sense of giving something back for this great experience, like that even the animals pay to go to the fair. I just think it's beautifully done. I don't know how well, and you can talk about this too, Mel, like this would do in a large group. I think some of the things might be hard to see, but I think sharing one-on-one, like in a family setting, I think
Mhm.
this book is amazing. So I've gone on long enough. Mary Ellen,
Yeah, I
tell
think
us what you think.
I think if you shared it in a smaller group, this is great for getting conversation going about what's going on in the book and what's going on in the pictures, since you can get all those picture cues. A couple of things I really liked was here they are getting ready for the fair on the end papers. I'm always going to talk about the end papers now. And here they are, afterwards. I just think the artwork in here is just so beautiful. So yeah, you can really talk about, um, what are they doing? What's going on at the fair? What's happening at the fair? So some kids who haven't been at the fair might see some of these things, but not know what they are. But then other kids can talk about, oh, well, that's a Ferris wheel or that's a roller coaster. So there'll be a little context there. I love the page where they're swinging on that thing that swings up in the air.
Yeah.
That's really neat. The other thing I really like, is how the animals were watching as they set it all up, and then they waited till the end. I got a big kick out of the end too, where you see all the animals cleaning up too. So they're cleaning up their mess. I just thought that was really, really
So well behaved.
Yes. Oh, here it is. Yeah. So, and you can talk about that and talk about cleaning up. Even the animals clean up after themselves. And then I don't know, did you notice at the very end? I don't know if it's a fox or a wolf, but he has the goldfish bag.
Oh,
And he
yeah.
goes and he lets the goldfish go in the lake.
I'd forgotten about that. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
I thought that was really lovely.
Yes, I thought that was really a nice ending to it.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the activities you could do with this particular book is what do you think animals do in your neighborhood at night? And then they could draw their story, they could, and then tell the story themselves. Or you could just even say, well, what do you like best at the fair? All these animals were having a great time. Do you have a favorite thing that you like to do at the fair? But you can really get some good conversation going with this book, I thought. And especially one-on-one, the way the book is laid out with the various scenes on each page. I mean, you could spend hours poring over it, like what they're doing in each scene. So I think it has a lot of different uses. But I do agree with you. One-on-one or a small group would be the best for this book, just because the pictures are so detailed oriented. Whereas somebody like Jan Brett, who has a lot of detail in her books, there's still a main story they could follow along with the bigger pictures, and then they can look at the smaller pictures. Whereas this, I think, there's so much to see in it also, but there's more broken down on the page. So yeah, I thought it was absolutely lovely, and having something that's done at night is really intriguing for kids. And I always remember there was a book about a dog at night, what Faust saw, I think was the name of it. And one of our librarians had said to my twins, what do you think your dog does at night? You want to be careful with that question, because tried to stay up all night to see what the dog was doing all night long. But they do have a real interest in that. And then you could, talk more about, well, which animals are nocturnal. And so you could get into more of the wildlife biology part of it, and about different animals. So, and
some of the animals they might have seen in their neighborhood. Like I was looking at the raccoons, and I'm like, depending on when bedtime is or when you get up, like chances are they've seen raccoons doing what raccoons do in their neighborhoods. Going through the trash or whatever.
Yes. Exactly. So yeah, just a gorgeous picture book.
Yeah. I like that one a lot. My next one is also gorgeous. This one is Watercress. And this, it's hard to get that without a glare, but it's by Andrea Wang with the pictures by Jason Chin. And Jason Chin is an illustrator. I really love his stuff. He's done some stuff on the redwoods. He's done some things on the national parks. I'm trying to remember some of his other ones, but they're kind of these gorgeous panorama kind of pictures. He does a lot of work researching the kind of plants that are going to be in his illustrations and like getting the landscape just right. I went to a talk that he did, and the way that he works is just fascinating. And
Mhm.
so I love seeing his work paired with this book because I think the story is also really strong. So it starts out, we're in rural Ohio in this beat up Pontiac. Right away I'm intrigued, and I love the expression on this girl's face. It's like every kid trapped in a car on a country road
Yes.
with the whole family. And so they're driving along, and her mom sees something in the, like, I can't tell, I don't think it's a creek, I think it's like an irrigation ditch
Mhm.
that she's looking at. And the mom makes everybody stop and get out of the car. The girl has to take off her socks and shoes and roll her pant legs up. And what the mom sees is watercress growing down in the ditch. And so the whole family has to get out of the car and help pick it. And she wants nothing to do with this. She doesn't like that there's snails underneath some of the leaves. She doesn't like when her brother pulls up a huge clump of it, it's all muddy and dripping. They only have paper sacks to carry it in, and it just seems like they're there picking this for hours, the way that she's describing the story. And but they have to pick it all. And I love this page where she's kind of delicately trying to
Mhm.
find her way in this. It's like, who knows what's in this irrigation
Yeah.
ditch? It just looks really precarious. And so they get home, and the mom makes a big dish of it. And I love how she describes it. It's a big dish of watercress glistening with garlic oil and sesame seeds, which to me sounds delicious.
Yes.
But she only wants food from the grocery store. She is embarrassed that maybe her friends have seen her picking
Mhm.
this. The mom talks about how the watercress is free, and to her, free is bad. It's like hand-me-down clothes. I could show that on this next page.
Yeah.
It's foraging for food. It's finding useful things at the side of the road that you could take home.
Mhm.
So she has a very different perspective of what free means. And this book does a really good job, I think, of being compassionate to a kid's perspective.
Mhm.
Like, this book could be really preachy, because as you go on, you find out that the reason the mom is so excited about finding watercress is she survived a famine as a child. And her little brother wasn't that lucky. And so they were starving. And so now as an adult, like, she's learned to be super resourceful. And it just makes me think of like my grandparents that survived the Great Depression. Like
Mhm.
my grandmother wouldn't throw away tinfoil,
Mhm.
TV dinner trays, string. She just saved all of that stuff. And it's from, being young at a time where it was nothing but poverty. So I just think this book handles this story so gracefully. Like, I feel like a lot of the storytelling happens in the illustrations. Like in this panel, you see the family and the little brother's there, and in this panel, the brother's gone and they're
Mhm.
quite a bit gaunter. I feel like it shows the physical reality of
Mhm.
poverty and starvation. And after seeing the picture of the family and hearing her mom's story, the girl feels being ashamed about her family. And I think that's like a normal feeling.
Mhm.
And I think it's important that the main character kind of has that experience, and looking at something from a completely different perspective than the one she has. But I love that the author gives her the chance to have her own feelings first.
Mhm.
And she has like a real change of heart by the end of the book. But I just thought it was gorgeous. Um, it's quite a bit sadder than the other books that we've talked about,
Mhm.
but I think it's important, and I think it's really gorgeously done. Mary Ellen, what did you think about this one?
Yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was very touching, very sweet, and just how gently she brings the little girl along to thinking differently about her family. I really liked at the back of the book, um, there's a note from the author and a note from the artist.
Mhm.
And so they talk a lot about memories. And I think what I liked about this is now the mom is creating a new memory about watercress for her family. And she's kind of changed the story for the little girl, once the little girl hears the story about her family struggle in China, that
Mhm.
now she's kind of changed the story so that the foraging is is a good memory for them. They're
Mhm.
going out as a family, they're cooking together. And so while you may not have the best memories in your life, there's still room for some good memories to happen. And I think that was kind of the point of it. And I like that the author shared her own experience at the back growing up too. And it's very similar to this story. And yeah, I also liked the artwork was just, it's beautiful in a different way, right? Than the Midnight
Mhm.
Fair was kind of, even though there was a soft quality, bolder colors to it, where this is very soft pictures and just what they're able to portray with the expressions on the family's face, that 2-page spread that you showed with
Mhm.
them, and just seeing their faces and the little girl's face while she's eating dinner. I think we've all seen that on our kids' faces at one time or another.
Yeah.
So that's not, it's very an accurate depiction of what a child might be feeling during a particular dinner. Um, but I did like that they shared their stories. Both of them shared their stories as an immigrant family. And I
Mhm.
think I think for our families that are immigrants coming in, this would be a nice one to read to them too. And but it's nice, I think it's good to read to anyone actually, because then you can see just kind of the struggles that other
Mhm.
families have too. And I mean, it's not unrealistic that this is something similar could be happening right here, right now also.
Mhm.
So it might strike, a child who may be struggling, maybe it gives them hope that things will get better too.
Right.
So I think you can use this in a lot of ways, but I think she talks a little bit about, the mom not wanting to share her story because it might be too sad, but that family history is what helped bring that little girl along in terms of accepting, her family not feeling as ashamed, I
Mhm.
think. At least that's the way I thought of it there. So, that sharing a family history isn't a nice thing to hear, that yes, share, when you think your kids are ready, share some of that family history with them, so that they know. And so later on in the years when they start to have some interest, um, I mean, I recently went through that with my own family, just finding
Mhm.
out some little tidbits of history that I was like, well, geez, I wish they had talked more about this. This would have been interesting to learn more about, um,
Mhm.
because of that. So I think that that's kind of a message the author has too, or at least what I took out of it was, you know, to share your memories of your family history, and whether it be good or bad, just so that people know a little bit more about where they're coming from.
Yeah.
But
I
I
just
really,
noticed the back. This gave me goosebumps. It's the mom and her little brother when they were
oh,
children. I
yeah,
just I didn't even notice it until just now, and I just
mhm,
felt shivers.
yeah,
So I think you're right. I think this book, like one of the themes is how the past shapes the present.
hmm,
Um, I just
yeah,
think it's so beautifully done. What
hmm.
age would you use this with?
I think maybe kindergarten and up,
Mhm.
um, just
Yeah,
because of the age of the child in the book, um, that maybe some of those feelings might be coming out a little bit more than as they get up into their, public school classrooms, or their,
yeah.
once they're into a more formalized educational setting. Not that preschool isn't, but I think kids are a little bit more accepting of each other
Yeah.
during that preschool age. I mean, they're starting to notice differences, definitely. But they can't really put the words to it then, whereas this would give them the vocabulary once they get up to their, once they hit that, school age of 5 and up, I think.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. You could have a few 4-year-olds that really resonates with, but I'm thinking more of an older
Yeah.
crowd for this one. But I don't know, some people, I mean, you never tell. It's so different for each child, but in general, that's how I would go with school age.
Yeah. And this one reminded me a lot of one that came out maybe 3 or 4 years ago, which was Adrian Simcox Does Not Have a Horse. And that's another one that has to do with economic differences. And, like another young girl being, kind of irritated. And this time it's her classmate who's always talking about his horse. And, she knows from his clothes and everything, like he does not have a horse, like he's just making this up. And so her mom takes her one day for a walk to see his house. And, it's kind of ratty and there are weeds. And the girl realizes that one of the ways he copes is with his rich imagination. And in his rich imagination, he does in fact have a horse.
Right.
So it reminded me of that book. It'd be interesting to pair these for the saddest story time ever. I don't know, like in what setting you would pair them, but they seem to me that they go well together.
Yeah. Well, I think it's all about having empathy, right? For another person, no matter what their situation, whether it's the parent or another child. So having empathy and being respectful of their memories.
Right. And knowing where people are coming from.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you look at it like that, yeah, I mean, I could see if you had a unit in the lower elementary grades about just different people and where they're coming from, if you're trying to do some sort of a lesson around that these two together would be a good pairing.
Yeah.
So well, some great picks this week, Sheri.
Thank you. Yeah, these were fun to talk about. A lot of very different books. And not as much for the younger kids this time, but sometimes that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, we're always at the mercy of the publishers, right? What's being published when. So but yeah, it's nice to have a mix too of something that's a little bit more solemn with something that's a little bit more fun to talk about them. Okay, well, thank you for another great picture book chat, Sheri.
Thank you.
And you can put any of these books on hold so that you yourself can read through them and see what you think of them. And yes, thanks again for joining us today, and we hope you have a great week. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.